Just a quick video today ranking my top 10 heavy metal bands. It's probably been done a million times before by other people, but I'm bored, I've got nothing better to do, and it's cheaper than going to the pub. More fun than walking around in the rain, so here goes. Starting at number 10, I've got Metallica. A lot of people would probably put them a lot higher than this, but I'm really judging them on just their first 3 or 4 albums. They sort of lost their way after that. I stopped listening to them after Saint Anger. In ninth place, I've got Cream. Now, some people might not think they're a heavy metal band, but they were one of the forerunners of metal. Disraeli Gears is as good an album as any. It was just a fantastic album. Songs like Strange Brew, Tales of Brave Ulysses, Sunshine of Your Love, all-time classics. The album's also got a short version of We're Going Wrong. Now, there was a much better and longer version on the Live at the Royal Albert Hall in London in 2005. They're one of the few bands where the lead singer is not the most famous member. But, you know, Ginger Baker is one of the greatest drummers of all time. Eric Clapton is in most people's list of the top 10 guitarists. And he's also a very good bass player as well. Now, Jack Bruce, he's mainly the singer, he gets the least amount of publicity, but he was a brilliant bass player and also the main songwriter for the band. So, great band. Number 8, I've got KK Downing's Priest, a spin-off of Judas Priest. Now, KK formed his own band after he left Judas Priest due to a fallout with Glenn Tipton and the band's management. KK thought Tipton was a control freak and he decided to leave. He recruited the American singer Tim Ripper Owens, who had also spent, 6 or 7 years in Judas Priest. I've seen both bands live. Ripper Owens is every bit as good as Rob Halford. The real test came when he performed Victim of Changes. He hit the high notes as well as Rob Halford ever could. I prefer KK's version because the live concerts are more enjoyable. And although I've never met KK or Glenn Tipton, but from what I've read and from what I've seen, I would much rather have a beer with KK Downing than Glenn Tipton. Of course, there was an unforgettable act of utter twattishness, if that is a word, which not it should be. I'm talking about the one when Rob Halford came on stage riding a motorbike. I mean, it was just pure cringeworthy. KK's Priest are better live than Judas Priest ever were. Just a much better band. At 7, I've got a band a lot of you might have never heard of. From Texas in America, Solitude Aeturnus. I've made a video about them and how I discovered their debut album, Into the Depths of Sorrow. I'm going to put a link to that in the description because this is a band that everyone should hear. They're a great band. Just put the name in the search box on YouTube and have a listen. This is heavy metal doom style. Now, the words doom and heavy metal don't really go together. Metal should be loud and fast, while doom implies slow and dreary. Not many bands can play this style of music, not properly anyway, but Solitude Aeturnus have mastered it to perfection. At number 6, following on from this doom style, is Candlemass from Sweden. They've had 6 lead singers, including Solitude Aeturnus singer Robert Lowe. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the names of the band, but they should be on screen about now. They've all done a great job. And as good as Robert Lowe is, and I do rate him very highly, I think he's one of the best of all time. But my favourite singer for Candlemass is Messiah Marcolin. He's a proper frontman. He comes on stage dressed as a monk. And he's done something he invented called the Doom Dance, which is a sort of slow, stomping, wandering around the stage. It's a bit weird, but you've got to see it. They're playing at Metal Fest in London in September. I think Johan Lundqvist is back as lead singer. I've already bought my ticket and I'll be going to see it. Into the top 5, I've got to include Iron Maiden. Started as a pub band in East London, became famous when they replaced Paul Di'Anno with Bruce Dickinson. I've seen Paul Di'Anno playing as a support act for KK's Priest last year, also with Burning Witches on the bill. He was in a wheelchair, but he still put on a great performance, singing songs from the first 2 Maiden albums, which he wrote or co-wrote. Number 4, Rainbow. Now, Ronnie James Dio is probably the greatest heavy metal singer of all time. Nobody likes Ritchie Blackmore, but you can't deny he's one of the best guitarists that ever lived. Songs like Stargazer, Still I'm Sad are classics. I listen to Rainbow most days. Moving into the top 3, well, got to put Led Zeppelin in. What can you say about them? Probably one of the biggest names of all time of any genre. Rock royalty. One of my biggest regrets in life is that I've never seen them play live. I don't know why they never found a replacement for John Bonham and carried on. There must have been plenty of good drummers who would jumped at the chance to play for Led Zeppelin, but it wasn't to be. At number 2, I'm going with Motorhead. I think if Lemmy hadn't been sacked from Hawkwind, they would have gone on to be a much heavier and probably better band than they were, even though they were a great band. Certainly a lot heavier, and with like the space rock theme of Space Ritual, they could have been right up there with the best, but they're not even classed as a metal band. And of course, we would never have had Motorhead. So there's not much more I can say about Motorhead that you don't already know. I've seen them so many times, probably more than any other band. I did have a ticket to see him in Manchester, but Lemmy died about 2 weeks before the concert. So very sad occasion, but his health was in real poor decline. And as he once said, I don't want to live forever. So that brings us to number 1. You can probably guess who it is. Yeah, of course, it's the band that started it all. Black Sabbath. Without them, heavy metal probably never existed. Their debut album is as good as any album ever made. They were the best of the best. I feel sorry for the younger generation who never got to see these bands live. But the music's going to live on forever. So, if you agree with me, disagree, got any comments at all, please just say what you got to say. Make a comment, like and subscribe. And thank you for watching.